Welcome to episode 2 of reviewing and ranking my entire CD collection. If you're new here, you're probably wondering why I'm putting myself through this. You're not the only one. It's mainly because my missus told me I have no need to keep my CDs because I don't play them anymore. True, I am a total hypocrite when it comes to streaming. Just because I stream doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt my soul. So just by doing this series, it gives me an excuse to listen to all my CDs, bring back that magic nostalgia CDs offer when you're looking through them, bringing up thoughts like, where was I in my life when I bought this? And how did this shape my overall taste in music? But the cherry on top for the purpose of this series is to one-up my girlfriend, which is what being in a healthy relationship is all about, isn't it? Surely? Feel free to go back to episode 1 to get the whole TED talk on the significance of CDs, as this was the abridged version. If you missed the first episode, I went back to 2011 and reviewed the first artist alphabetically in my collection, which was the best-selling album of the 21st century, 21 by Adele. Even though this series and channel is about my love of CDs and lack of interest for streaming, it is worth mentioning that as well as selling 31 million units, there's also been 1 or 2 streams of the album, 1 or 2 billion, on numerous platforms by traitors to their CD collection, as I like to call them. Not every song got a billion, but the singles have. So that was the only Adele album I own. I do plan on listening to the other 3. I'll have to stream them. Oh, streaming. So the next CD in my collection happens to be 27 by the Addicts. It's worth noting that unlike episode 1 where I longed for a bit of ABBA in my collection, I'm struggling to think of any decent band or artist that should be represented between Adele and the Addicts. Nah, I'm stumped. Obviously, I'm not classing the Addicts under T because I don't include bands with the in the title that way because I'm not an absolute psychopath. Comment down below the missing band artist I have overlooked. As well as reviewing the album, I will rank it with the rest of my CD collection thus far. That's basically a more sophisticated way of saying I will be telling you if it's better or worse than Adele's 21 from episode 1. Episode 386 of this series will make the charting aspect of the video a lot more interesting, so stick with it. I don't really remember ever buying or listening to 27 by the Addicts. According to my Amazon history, I bought it in 2013 alongside a DOA album and some Ricky Gervais stand-up DVDs. Oh, that's another medium I miss that's now dead. In those glorious days, you could buy a CD for 1p. I'm not even exaggerating. And then you had to pay £1.26 postage. I've just checked now and it's being sold for £24. Why not just make it £27 like the album's namesake? I hadn't even been to the Rebellion Festival at this point, so I wasn't influenced by all the Addicts t-shirts and patches dominating the punk leather jackets, nor had I seen them live. I think I heard Viva La Revolution and liked their image of dressing up like the Droogs on A Clockwork Orange. That doesn't mean I like the behaviour of the gang, I just like the look. The Addicts said the same thing on their website. They just seem to be like one of these bands I should have known as a punk fan. For those unfamiliar with the Addicts, they are a punk band from Ipswich who formed in 1977 but didn't really start cooking until the early 80s. I think of them as a pop punk band. Proper pop punk, not Good Charlotte or Newfound Glory or any of this whiny early 2000s American pop punk. I mean proper pop punk where punk is actually present in the sound. In a similar vein to the Buzzcocks or the Toy Dolls or the Ramones, with a bit of Adam and the Ants glam type punk thrown in for good measure. 27 is the 5th full-length offering the adverts provided us, released in 1992 on tape on Cleopatra Records, making me 31 years late to the party. It was then released a year later on CD. At that time, the band consisted of Monkey on vocals, Pete D on guitar, Kid D on drums and Spider on bass. I thought 27 was quite a boring name for an album, and weird how it's next to Adele's 21 in my collection. Then I had a look at the liner notes. You can't do that whilst you're streaming, can you? And the reason it was called 27 was due to the fact the album comes with a board game with 27 squares on, giving the album a cool bit of backstory. As you can see, the squares include eat 8 spoonfuls of Vindaloo, clean your teeth, and put a red hot chili in your mouth. The last 6 squares on the board all say go back to the beginning, making the game impossible to finish with a 6-sided dice. Dice. I think it's dice. I think the game was more about the destination rather than the arrival, and apparently the band used to play it on the back of the bus on tour. The first thing I notice about 27 is the production is horrible. I'm so sorry to start the review in such a blunt, negative way, worded inadequately with no sense of ostentatiousness. I just use the word ostentatiousness to aim to try and rescue the simplicity of my critique. We can't get away from the fact that the opening number, well-written pop-punk anthemic sing-along Angel, is ruined by the fact that the guitar solo is barely audible. I bet that if you said to your nan, that guitar solo was good, wasn't it? She would say, what solo? It is that low in the mix. Monkey's vocals also get the same treatment. He needs to be way more prominent and he should be the main driver of the band. Instead, the sound and texture of his voice is lost, losing a lot of potential power this album could have achieved. I am no expert in mixing and producing, nor do I pretend to be, but it is really noticeable that the balance isn't the way it should be. I even checked with my iPod in the car and Spotify to check it wasn't just my CD player. I had the same result on every hearing. Parking the poor production situation for the time being, the Addicts have clearly found a formula that works for them and they stick to what they know best. Well-written Ford-core punk songs, employing palm-muted guitar effects when necessary, and choruses that consist of just the title of the song usually chanted 4 or 8 times. There is nothing wrong with simplicity. I believe that many of the best songs spanning a wide range of genres are ones that keep things simple. You only need to hear these songs once or twice to know them well enough to sing along. Think of the Ramones being raised in England with a keen interest in football chants, and on the way to the gig they happened to stop at the fancy dress shop to honour Stanley Kubrick for their performance. That is the Addicts. Talking of football, Football Fairy Story is a particular highlight on the album. Here the Addicts flirt with a faster, hardcore influenced tempo that is still tuneful and inoffensive enough for non-hardcore fans to enjoy. Monkey's comic book inspired lyrics conjure up every boy's dream to become a professional footballer and somehow manages to fill you with nostalgia. GIRL and What Am I to Do are also two other songs on the album that stood out for me as being particular highlights. The Addicts weren't afraid to experiment with the former. They had many ideas, not just verse, chorus, verse. We had pre-verse, pre-chorus, introductions, and a key change as well as backing vocals, wow, wow, that reminded me of Jokorama by the Dead Kennedys. What Am I to Do was a heavier hitting blast that was very rebellion punk. Rebellion Festival has its own genre, rebellion punk. It conjures up the memories of wandering around the winter gardens with 2 hours to kill before one of your favourite bands you really want to see, and you wander from stage to stage trying to get something to jump out at you, and nothing is really grabbing you as you just hear rebellion punk in the background. So basically it was a bit more to the chorus. I hope that made sense. That was one for people that go to Rebellion. I'm really confused because Rockers in Rags sounds like it was produced properly and doesn't sound like any of the other songs on the album. Why is this? This is generally one of life's mysteries. If every song was produced and mixed like Rockers in Rags, this album could have been an 8.5 out of 10. It was hard hitting and reminded me of the UK subs, which can only be a good thing. When the Addicts slow things down, this is where I lose interest. I don't think this is where their strengths lie as a band. Rossini is just a tedious link and filler to A Clockwork Orange. And don't get me started on Bog. Bog is a sarcastic appreciation of God that was bordering on Spinal Tap territory. For me, this is punk at its worst, trying too hard to be rebellious. It's lazy and it's cringy. Give Me More is a bit of a late 80s Ramones ripoff. I'm thinking Planet Earth 1988. I have a feeling I'm going to be mentioning the Ramones a lot in these episodes. For me, it doesn't really go anywhere. It's a bit dull and repetitive and stripped of a good guitar lead. I can't help feel a little frustrated upon finishing 27. It had its moments, but was unfortunately overshadowed by very poor production and a few songs that didn't really do anything for me. This was because they were too slow and didn't go anywhere, e.g. Give Me More and Bog, as I've already mentioned. Also, as a personal preference, I'm not a huge fan of Monkey's voice. It's not unique enough for me to want to come back for repeated listens. I've got the impression that the Addicts are probably one of those bands that are miles better live than on the CD, and after a quick visit to YouTube, my theory was confirmed when I watched a really enjoyable set they did back in 2017. They are a spectacle too good for the studio. 18 songs was way too many. I am listening to the album as it was intended. I'm not including a bonus track from my 2002 CD remaster. I'm a bit anal. I like to review the art as it was intended. If the album was produced properly and only had sort of 12 or 13 songs on it, I would be giving it an 8.5 out of 10. But as I heard it today, I'm going to give 27 by the Addicts a 5 out of 10. Go and see the Addicts live, which is what I'll be doing when I get the chance. And I'll be hiding from them after giving them 5 out of 10. Hopefully they aren't as violent as the characters from A Clockwork Orange. And now for the ranking. Was 27 better than 21? Drum roll please. No. Sorry Monkey & Co, but the opinion is in and I can confirm that 21 is better than 27. And now for a rundown of the chart. New entry at number 2, we have 27 by the Addicts, and remaining at number 1 for the second episode in a row, we have 21 by Adele. Thank you for making it all the way to this point in the video. Please like, share and subscribe. What did you think of my review? Are you completely baffled at my "it's poorly produced" comments? Do you love the Addicts and are completely triggered by my average rating? Should I give a different Addicts album a listen? Are you sick of hearing me comparing everything to the Ramones? Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video for episode 3 of reviewing and ranking my entire CD collection.